Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking Smack. I'm your host, Josh Scar. With me this week is Alex Lasden. Alex, welcome back.
Thank you.
And we got a lot of news to talk about. Again, it's not a Talking Smack episode without some kind of Star Wars news, apparently.
Always.
They are dominating the news cycle this week. So we're going to start with some lesser news and kind of build up to that. At the beginning of the week, I thought this was the big news. Brian Michael Bendis has signed an exclusive deal with DC Comics. For those of you who don't know who Brian Michael Bendis is, he is the creator of characters like Jessica Jones and Miles Morales. He was actually one of the first writers that I really started to kind of resonate with when he and Mark Bagley were collaborating on Ultimate Spider-Man when Marvel kicked off the Ultimate Comics universe, which the Ultimate Comics universe was pretty awful, but the Ultimate Spider-Man comics from Peter Parker building up to Miles Morales was fantastic. The art style changed a little bit, and that kind of bothered me, but the story stayed really solid. I don't know if it's necessarily a giant loss for Marvel, just because he's been very miss lately. He's not been hit or miss. It's been a lot of miss. And he was the guy behind Civil War 2, and it was time for him to go, I think. I think it was a beneficial mutual parting of ways. And I think that whatever he ends up on with DC, he'll do a pretty good job with if he ends up creating new characters, whether they be like a new Green Lantern character or a new Bat Family character. I don't know. Batman's in pretty good hands right now. I'm really enjoying that comic arc where he and Catwoman are engaged. And it's very intriguing. And then there's also, he could take over Detective Comics, Action Comics. Superman, I think, is in really good hands too with Superman's current story arc. So I don't know exactly where he fits in unless he's going to take over a quirky book like Harley Quinn or something. But they just have the first issue coming out with the new team after Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palomatti's arc ends in December. So who knows where he's going to end up and what he's going to do. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would do a lesser known character. So I don't think he's going to do anything with like Nightwing or Swamp Thing or anything like that. I couldn't tell you what he's going to do. But whatever he takes over at DC, I'm interested in at least giving the first few issues a try.
Yeah, I don't necessarily follow comics that closely, but looking over his bibliography and all the way he's helped shape Marvel over the last 16 or so years, it's going to be interesting that he's moved away and that Marvel didn't try to like chain him to the desk or something with a truckload of money and something. But I would like to see what they do, what his first project would actually be. I'm kind of hoping for kind of a Neil Gaiman, death kind of thing where he takes over and something lesser known, something interesting, and starts building his own like corner of the universe. But if he wants to take over somebody big, well, I'm sure DC is going to be all for that.
Yeah, I don't think DC brings him in, especially on an exclusive contract, to put him somewhere he doesn't want to be. So whatever he wants to do, I'm sure they're going to let him do. We'll see. They haven't announced anything definitively. He tweeted out that he's moving over and he signed an exclusive contract. I don't know if that prohibits him from continuing any independent comics that he has going or he did have going. And now Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan, they have departed from their posts as the masterminds / Kevin Feige's, if you will, of the Universal Studios Dark Universe movie universe. The Dark Universe is done. The Mummy failed miserably domestically. Internationally, it did pretty well. But I think that's largely just because Tom Cruise is still a name internationally, whereas in the US, he's got Mission Impossible, and that's kind of it. I know you were kind of excited for that Drug Lord movie that he was coming out in. I forget what it was called. American Original or American Made. I think that kind of is already petered out of cinemas.
Yeah, it would open up about a month before the U.S. worldwide, and did fairly well overseas, and then it's pretty much already gone for the U.S. They think part of what hit it not being able to do as well is that Tom Cruise did not go on his normal month-long traveling the entire world promoting it kind of thing. But it was a smaller movie anyway. It was just, I think, $40 or $50 million was its budget. to know that this universe, which I always thought was a really weird fit for him, he seems to be someone who he has his one franchise that he does, a movie every few years to remind everyone that he's still around, and then he always picks these weird passion projects. That he decided to go for a Universal monster movie universe always seemed like a really bizarre fit to me, and he did seem to suggest that he wanted to be there because he was talking about how he grew up watching the black and white monster movies and all this stuff. But then the movie came out and there was rumors he was fighting with the first-time director over how his character was being portrayed, and then Universal was stepping in saying you have to just shove as many references to the other properties in there as possible.
Because that worked so well for Iron Man 2.
Oh, yeah. And so it doesn't do anything for me, and I still have yet to see it because once they just got closer and closer, I got tired of it. I felt like I've seen the entire movie before it even came out because I'm like, oh, okay. All right, so they find this, she comes out, she destroys stuff, and then thanks for those spoiler 30-second TV ads where I know that then he becomes possessed by her and becomes a mummy. And then I read the wiki write-up, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So I'm like, great. I'm still going to give it a shot whenever it comes to Prime, Hulu, Netflix, whatever it is, but all I can feel is a little bit bad for that publicity photo of the 6 of them standing there going, we have a dark universe. We're already all named and the dates are picked and everything.
Yeah, the next movie up was supposed to be Angelina Jolie as the Bride of Frankenstein, which to me is kind of weird when you don't have a Frankenstein that's been introduced yet. But we were discussing this before we started recording, where this is the 3rd time they failed to launch this universe that they wanted to do. They started with the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, and then they tried again with Dracula Untold, and now again with The Mummy, which I haven't seen it. I had no desire to see it. It didn't look fun. It didn't look creepy. It looked like a really bad script of Mission Impossible with some sci-fi and mystical stuff added in.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that kind of excited me was I did like that they did the whole vomit comet crashing airplane thing. That looked cool, and then some of the other stunts, because I'm always down for Tom Cruise doing whatever wacky stunt he wants to do, and it always is going to be their impress. And then basically I heard is at once that was like the very beginning of the movie, and then once you're past that, it's running and sometimes zombie mummies, and then a lot of homages to all the other movies, and then apparently
a really weird scene with Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe hulking out, Jekylling out, I guess. So yeah, I'm kind of annoyed because I would like a dark universe because they had that. They had the crossovers. They had all that in the 30s and 40s, but they wanted to do something just Me Too.
I don't get the appeal of the dark universe, though, only because if you're building towards something like a greater evil where all these other monsters have to come together to fight these monsters, it's the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Right.
That movie was so bad, it forced Sean Connery to retire. Are we trying to force Tom Cruise to retire or Russell Crowe? I mean, I know a lot of people would not care about that. I mean, I personally wouldn't care if it forced Angelina Jolie to retire. I don't get her, which is, again, I don't get a lot of things, which is something we're going to get into with today's topic. I mean, seriously, like the girl who plays the mummy, her career is probably already done.
She'll be fine. She'll be back in Star Trek Beyond 2 as that white alien with the blue stripes.
Was that her?
Yeah, that was her.
Oh, well, then yeah, her career is fine because as long as no one can recognize her. So yeah, the Dark Universe is unironically dead.
Oh, bad pun.
It would have been a pun if I hadn't said it anyway. I personally don't care. I don't see the appeal of the Dark Universe. I don't really get what they're building towards. Unless it was going to cross over with Hellboy somehow. I don't know what they were building towards.
Oh, that could have been good.
Mind blown?
Oh, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
that's what would have been. They would have done like 6-7 movie series. They would have built it up. They have the Mummy. They
weren't going to follow the DC plan and just dive right in.
No. Yeah, if they had like a 9-thing plan, you got the Frankenstein's Bride, you got the Wolfman, you got Dracula, you got the Mummy, you got the Mummy 2, you got the Invisible Man. Jack the Ripper, throw him in there. Why not? Have all build movies with Dracula's brides, and then have them have the whole portal in the air, that overdone complete thing, and have it turn out that the ultimate evil they have to fight is Hellboy. And Ron Perlman is Hellboy again, and it's going to be directed by Guillermo del Toro. This has been his plan all along. Hellboy 3, every monster versus Hellboy. I'd pay to see that. I'd be there every movie if I knew that was the end game.
Moving on, in other crossover news, Disney has hit a stalling point, or a stalemate would be a better term, in negotiations to try and purchase parts or assets of 21st Century Fox, mainly their movie department and a handful of other small channels like FX. I assume that would include FXX. Among other things, this would also include, obviously, movies like X-Men, Alien, the Alien franchise, the Predator franchise, the Planet of the Apes franchise, Kingsman, Die Hard, and Avatar. Not the Last Airbender, not the good Avatar,
not the one you have,
but the James Cameron one. Which, I mean, that would make sense because James Cameron's already got Disney, or Disney's got James Cameron in their pocket. Well, someone's got someone in their pocket because they've got the world of Pandora at Disney World in the Animal Kingdom now.
Which I've actually heard really good reviews about. That.
I have a friend,
beautiful.
My buddy Marcos has gone twice now, and there's some really cool stuff. Like, I guess the Flight of the Na'vi thing is kind of like a VR experience, and the saddle that you sit on to represent the dragon thing.
Yeah, the wingback.
Yeah, whatever it's called. I think it's a banshee. I think it was like that simple. Like, the thing actually, quote unquote, breathes.
Creepy.
Yeah, so like you can feel it breathing as you straddle it.
Oh, that's weird.
He says it's super cool.
Oh yeah, but still, that'd be creepy.
But the most important thing about Disney trying to acquire these assets from Fox is that Fox owns the distribution rights to Star Wars episodes 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3 through 2020. The kicker is they own the distribution rights for episode 4 forever. If Disney is able to buy these assets from Fox, they own the entire collection. And something we were discussing earlier in the week, Fox also owns the rights to the theme music of Star Wars.
That's the weird part. Like, how... I know that it was one of those 70s deals where George Lucas was negotiating basically backwards, the whole like, oh yeah, we're going to hire somebody. It's a great idea. And he's like, no. I want this, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you less money. Okay. And I get the rights to this. Okay. We're going to give you less money. And I get to direct it. Yeah. You get less money. And I want the rights to the sequels. Less money. And the toys. Whatever. Yeah. So it's one of those things where literally the movie was made super, super cheap and he had the vision and it worked out. Fox owns the rights to the music versus the composer or the distribution rights. That's the weird part.
Or the studio.
Or the studio. Something. That's just bizarre.
Because Lucasfilm made the movies.
Yeah.
But Fox distributed. And so Fox owns those distribution rights. So for kind of an analogy, Disney owns the distribution rights to even the original Doug animated series.
Right.
Not just Doug when it moved over to ABC when he was in middle school.
Okay.
So that's why Amazon has a print-on-demand service for the Doug series. Mm-hmm. But you'll never get Nickelodeon to re-air those episodes because they don't have those rights anymore. So it's kind of a similar thing to that. But if Disney is able to pull off this merger or purchase, they would own the rights to not only the distribution rights to these movies, they would own the original prints. We could finally get high definition remasterings of the original releases, which means no Ewoks blinking, no awkward Vader nose, not nose like what's on his face, like the word no. I can watch the special editions or the Blu-ray editions, whatever you want to call them, on Blu-ray, except for Return of the Jedi. There are way too many changes in Return of the Jedi. You have the musical number, which is awful, but I can tolerate. You have the blinking Ewoks. But then there's a spot at the end of the movie when Palpatine is electrocuting Luke, and Luke is pleading with Vader, Father, please help me, save me, whatever. Vader is like looking back and forth. That part's not changed, but he sits there and he goes, no, no, no. And then he throws the Emperor down the shaft. And that part just kills me because it's not necessary.
Have you seen the YouTube video of that where like they actually compare the original scene and you just hear the score and then the remastered where they add that, and it just completely just overwhelms and just butchers the emotional resonance of that scene. Because
I haven't seen that comparison, but I mean, you don't need the comparison. You just need to know what the original was.
Yeah, no, the original it was all silence and him looking and Luke screaming,
and you just have this blank stare on Vader's face. You just see him looking back and forth. You don't know what he's doing. You don't know what he's thinking.
No.
He's Vader. He's supposed to be the biggest badass and most evil bastard in the galaxy. And he goes and saves his son. It's an amazing turning point. You don't need him going, no.
No.
You don't need another no in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
There's plenty of them.
I'm really, really, really excited about the idea of Disney buying the assets. I mean, of course, the behind-the-scenes stuff is just kind of crazy. If you start looking at, like, the reason why Fox may be selling it is because Rupert Murdoch, who owns everything, it's kind of been sidelined by his younger sons who wanted to set their own mark on it, which is why they had all this purging of the last year and a half of a bunch of Fox News people they got rid of. And they are trying to launch Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, and they're like negotiating rights for different stuff. So their big thing is they want to focus on news and sports, which is what they are want to build their brand off of. And they want to get rid of, cut the rest of the stuff and go. So there was some rumor that they were actually negotiated with Universal last year for like a batch of things. And then someone, of course, trolled on the internet saying like, well, the reason why Disney's interested is because they were going to offer the X-Men to DC. And then someone's like, yeah, no, of course that's all crap.
But that's another thing. If they, like we said, they would get the rights to the X-Men and the Fantastic Four back to Marvel. And then, not necessarily the most important thing, but something that just adds an ambiance to the Star Wars movies is we would get those 20th Century Fox themes back in front of Star Wars. I know you have your feelings towards The Force Awakens. I enjoy it. I think it's fine. It could be better. It could be worse. Right. But it is missing something. And I think part of it is that 21st Century Fox build up to the title screen.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. That pisses me off. That I'm going there seeing a Star Wars movie,
and it's just quiet.
Having watched them on VHS, having watched the remasters in the movie theater, having watched them on TV, having seen some of the Blu-rays. But then of course seeing the prequels, and then I'm sitting there going like, all right, because the thing about it is that it's not just Fox is releasing it. It's the fanfare.
Yeah.
It's the
it's the prelude.
Yeah, exactly. You get hyped and then it just trails off. You hit the black. You start.
It's silence, and then you see a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then you bam.
Exactly. And Disney, I don't know why they put the train that they got or Tinkerbell or something. Instead, it's just like, okay, cool. Last trailer, silent. Lucasfilm sparkles.
I would prefer the Lucasfilm sparkles with nothing, or I would prefer Lucasfilm to develop their own theme.
Yeah.
Because you can't put the Disney you can't put that in front of Star Wars. It's not the same. It's not that fanfare that Fox has. Disney's is more like wistful and like longing, where Fox is just like orchestra, like Beethoven just hit that note. And as many mistakes as Fox has made in the last few years, keeping the theme, that fanfare is paramount.
No, it's fantastic.
You can't change that. That's like the MGM lion. You can't take the lion out of that logo. But yeah, getting it won't obviously happen for episode 8, but we've got 2 years for them to figure that out and get that in front of, because Fox can easily just distribute that movie.
Oh, easily.
Or they can distribute that under the Fox banner, no problem.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And they can add that in front of it in episode 9. What better way to kick off episode 9 with a lot of people like you who are very skeptical with JJ to hit that nostalgia note with that Fox fanfare at the beginning, though.
I'd be sold. Like, it's back. Oh, there it is. This is fantastic. because it just loses a little something without something there. And I know Disney is trying to let Lucasfilm do their own thing, but there needs some
That fanfare is like the
thing.
warm-up band.
Yeah.
It's that thing that just gets you that extra psyched.
There has to be a transition from 25 minutes of damn trailers into Star Wars. You know?
When we went to go see Thor, our theater typically does like a 7 p.m. show for the advanced screening.
Mm-hmm.
They moved Thor to 7:30, and the trailers in front of Thor lasted like 35 minutes. So we didn't get out of the theater until about 9:30, 9:45 ish, because obviously it's a Marvel movie, so you got to stay for the credits. And
Maybe worth it at the end, but yeah.
Yeah, and one of the movies we're going to talk about here is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, like as is.
Yep.
And I just kept thinking, and this is one of the reasons why it's one of my you can only watch this once movies, is because it's so long. And then if you add trailers in front of it for a theater going experience, it's like a 3 hour and 10-minute theater going experience.
Okay.
I enjoy long movies. I like it 2 hour 20, 2 hour 15, 2 hour and 30 minute even.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 hour and 30 minute is just pressing my buttons. It's getting close to going too far.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's a really good movie. Disney, please find a way to get this Fox thing done. Obviously, they can keep 20th Century Fox as is, but they would have to do some rebranding, I think, for channels like FX. And
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I think I've seen a lot of people fussing about is that the local Fox channels would stay the same. Those would remain with 21st Century Fox. They would not transition to ABC or Disney under that banner.
No, that's actually something interesting that I read about quite a while ago, is that how actual little control Fox has over local programming. Like you have CBS, NBC, ABC, they have a ton of control over the local affiliate stations they do. Now, the reason why, if you watch Fox, if you're Central Time like we are, it's 7 to 9 is Fox programming, 9 o'clock is whatever the local affiliate does, which is typically news, versus ABC, NBC, all them, which they control 7 to 10. The reason why that Fox has never extended from that 9 to 10 o'clock hour is because the local affiliates have voting control over what they can do, and they constantly vote to air their own local news network and then reruns of TV shows. And Fox had approached them back when they were firing all cylinders, so late 90s, early 2000s, wanting to say, hey, listen, we'd like to have like American Idol go a little longer, or we'd like to have like this, this show go longer. Can we go to 9:30? Can we push stuff back? And they pushed back and said no.
Transitioning, we've been on this topic a lot longer than I thought we would. Sticking with the Star Wars news, it was announced late on Thursday, I believe, that Rian Johnson will be helming a new Star Wars trilogy taking place in a corner of the universe that we have never been before. What that means, we don't know. Many people are speculating that it's the Old Republic.
Oh, please.
Many are stating that the Old Republic video game from BioWare, the MMO RPG that's out there, and the Xbox games, Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Please.
They're still arguing that those count as canon, so they can't go back that way.
Please. Darth Revan.
There's plenty of territory they can go. My big question, I can't really formulate an opinion on this. I'm a little dumbfounded that Rian Johnson would pass on episode 9, but take on this greater mantle of being the Kevin Feige of a brand new trilogy. Which, I mean, he's writing and directing the first one, and then he's just kind of overseeing the other two. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know who the other directors are going to be. There's a lot of speculation that Dave Filoni, the guy who helped create Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, might actually get the second or third installment.
Please.
He's the guy to go to for Star Wars stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, he was George Lucas's heir apparent until the merger with Disney, or the selling of the rights to Disney, and Kathleen Kennedy kind of took over. Dave Filoni was right there with George Lucas with like almost everything, and George Lucas gave him so much input on how to build the universe of the Clone Wars series. He's a walking encyclopedia for Star Wars stuff. Mm-hmm. Rian Johnson has even deferred to Dave Filoni for certain things. He's on record as saying as such. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get maybe our first Star Wars female director within that trilogy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Filoni takes one of those two movies. What they're going to be, no flipping clue.
The pessimistic side of me immediately went, "This is the most terrible, horrible idea ever." Because when I think about the people who are trying to do successful trilogies or get in there and try to like overtake part of a brand, I immediately think of Harry Potter, where movies 4 through Fantastic Beasts are the same director and it's his same vision and style, and to me it's just diminishing returns. You know what this guy's going to shoot, you know how bland it's going to be. And then I started thinking of successful franchises where almost every single movie changes hands. You have the Marvel franchises, who most movies are changing hands. You do have some shepherds in there, like the Russo brothers currently, but they admit that they're gone after this next movie. You have
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, Taika Waititi, who he did this amazing movie. He actually made a good Thor movie, and he's already has an idea for Thor 4 if he's given the reins to do it. You have James Gunn.
I just want more Korg.
Oh, yes.
Piss off, Ghost!
You have James Gunn, who brings his own kind of style to it, but they're allowing them to interpret in different ways and have different mandates. Then you have the James Bond franchise, who it seems to work better when they it's one and done directors. When they come back, you kind of get this weirdness going on. When you went with Skyfall, which was all right, pretty decent kind of movie, and then you have Spectre, which is like, that's just a flaming pile. But the idea of an unknown part of the universe with 3 different directors who are bringing their own vision, shepherded by somebody like the original trilogy was. Oh yeah, there's another example. You have the same director and writer for 1, 2, and 3. It doesn't go well. And then so I'm looking at this going like, could we have Darth Revan? Could we have 10,000 Sith versus 10,000 Jedi? Can we have a movie that's not focused on Han Solo, the Millennium Falcon, Boba Fett, the Skywalkers? It's an entire universe to explore, and they actually may be able to give us something new, something challenging, something different from the Star Wars universe. That's not
tied to the Skywalkers or the Death Star or Emperor Palpatine in any way.
Something that's not tied to the slavish worshipping of 4 through 6, like the Clone Wars and then Rebels is doing currently. Yes, I understand they're working little parts of it, but it's the slavish devotion for 4 through 6. He's going off in his own direction. He's being given free reign. Please be good. Please be good. Come on, I want something good.
And I mean, I think it's kind of a testament to how well he worked with Kathleen Kennedy and everyone else, J.J. Abrams and everyone in the writing room and the producers. If they're trusting him to kind of shepherd his own trilogy, I think that speaks to how well they view The Last Jedi, which makes me even more excited for The Last Jedi.
I'm looking way past Last Jedi to this new thing. I'm looking at this going like, he somehow duped Kathleen Kennedy and didn't get fired, and she's giving him 3 movies? I love this man. I don't even care what this is. I'll buy 10 tickets just to say I did, just to keep him going.
Honestly, because we don't know what this new trilogy is going to be about, my only concern is oversaturation, because is this going to come 18 months to 2 years after episode 9? Personally, I would like to see about a 3 to 5 year gap in between the two. Hopefully nothing in between those movies like we have sandwiched right now, where we have 7, Rogue One, 8, Han Solo, 9, probably Obi-Wan. And if we have Obi-Wan after 9, that means they plan on having whatever this new trilogy is start a year after that. I don't want a Star Wars movie every year. It begins to just become oversaturated. It loses its luster, even if it's not an episode movie or a saga movie, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
it just kind of loses its value. I mean,
well, Kathleen Kennedy's already said that there's going to be 10, 11, 12. She's mentioned that, after 9, well, she said something along the lines of, after 9, you'll understand who's left remaining and where they'll carry the next trilogy.
Well, yeah, because they better cut off they better have just a concise story within the 3 episodes, which is my biggest gripe against 7, is that each Star Wars movie should feel like a movie unto itself, where episode 7 just felt like a lot of setup. That was my biggest complaint. But as it stands on its own, it's fine, but it could have been better because they could have told a more concise and solid story.
I just realized she constantly refers to the main saga as the Skywalker saga. I just realized either Luke's gonna live for 10, 11, or 12, or some baby is emerging out of nowhere. There's a baby somewhere.
Or Rey shows up as a Skywalker. We'll find out in episode 8. As far as I'm aware, who her parents are is answered, but at the same time, it's really not. We get hints about where her lineage is, but we don't get a definitive answer. So, I mean, personally, I think it's either going to be Luke or it's going to be just no one in particular. It's going to be no one of consequence, because that's the only way I think it can go.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not something cheating along the lines of Ben Kenobi. It carries 10, 11, 12.
Although I did just finish the second Aftermath book. Mm-hmm. There's a very short but specific spot in the book where Leia is peering into the Force and she sees children, not just Ben. So maybe Rey is another child of hers and Han's. It doesn't mesh really well.
Is that the same book where they reference that Luke took down a Star Destroyer with the Force?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a different book.
I think that's the first Aftermath book. I heard really bad things about it, so I just skipped it.
Oh, okay.
Which I think in hindsight was a good and bad idea, because the book heavily focuses around this group of rebels who are no longer part of the rebel army because they decide helping Leia is more important than doing their jobs within the military.
Of course.
Or the new military. They're not a likable bunch. I did not care for them. I had no connection to them, so I think that was part of the first book, is getting the connection. And then the second book just kind of carries on. I'm just like, these people are a bunch of dicks. Yeah, like I said, I can't really formulate a big opinion on this. I'm excited because, again, if it is the Old Republic, if it is like the formation of the Sith as we know them, like the origin of how the Sith became two instead of a massive amount of Sith, I think that could still be very interesting.
No, I think it'd be very fascinating, especially if they maybe tap deeper into the lore of why the Sith and Jedi didn't work. And then, of course, there's stuff that hasn't really been fully mined elsewhere, like the Force witches and stuff like that, which I really find fascinating. So I'm hoping that he pitched an amazing trilogy that just blew people's socks off, and that we get it, and it's his vision, because I would like something away from 1 through 12.
Agreed. Agreedo.
Yeah.
So that's our news segment, and our topic for this week, which actually came together within 24 hours of recording this podcast. Alex suggested that we do movies you can only view once. And this is a wide open topic. It's not movies you can only view once because they're hard to watch, but they're so good. It's not movies that are so bad that you have to watch them, but never again. It's whatever we feel. It's a movie worth watching, but it also only resonated with you so much that you can't watch it again for whatever reason. And we'll give our reasons, I suppose.
Yeah. When the way I like to rank movies, I mean, there are good movies or masterpieces and stuff like that, but I tend to consider movies on their rewatchability. Like when I'm ranking stuff on IMDb, it's like they're a 10-point scale. 1 through 3 is like, crap, I'm never going to watch this ever again in my life. 4 through 6 is, if it's on TV and I'm really bored, I might rewatch it. Which is how there's a lot of sci-fi movies that I do that for you, because they're just really crappy sci-fi movies airing there. I'm like, well, why not? Mega Shark versus Octopus versus Piranhaconda. I'll give it a watch. I'm bored right now. And then like 7 through 10 are like my masterpieces, things I can rewatch and actively be engaged in. So there are a lot of masterpieces out there that I'm just, there you go, 10 out of 10 greatest movies of all time according to me. I'm just never going to watch again. I just can't. Of course, there's some bad movies there too. You want to go first?
I mean, I can. My rewatchability stuff is largely based on how kitschy it can be.
Right.
Like, one of the reasons I really didn't want to watch episode 7 again was because the Rathtar scene is a complete waste of time.
Oh, completely.
It serves no purpose to the greater story of episode 7, and it does nothing. But there's also the scene where, I don't hold this against Kylo Ren. I think his hissy fits, it's a bad term for me to use, but I think his hissy fits are fine. I don't care. But the scene of the moment of the stormtroopers walking around the corner and they just see the sparks of his lightsaber flaring out and you hear him yelling and they just like stop and turn around like, we'll come back later. I don't like moments like that because those are purely for the audience.
I love
and
that.
they don't last. Same thing with a lot of Harry Potter books or Harry Potter movies. Is they have all these moments for the audience and they don't hold up because you take that beat and it doesn't work for me. I don't like it. And the Lord of the Rings movies got really bad with that too. You could kind of tell as they got to Return of the King, fans were picking up on a lot of different things and they just threw in a bunch of moments for fans and it was just no. I can start.
Yep.
My first movie that I have on the list it's the first one that came to my mind. That's how my list is going to go. What came to my mind first? Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. It's a fine movie. It's kind of ironic that this is my only watch once movie because it's a movie built for multiple viewings, especially in the extended cut, which I have never seen. I have only seen this movie literally once in theaters. It was on HBO and I had it on as background noise during the final fight against Doomsday, but I barely watched it. It's a clusterfuck. I can't put it any other way. There's so much going on and Zack Snyder he wanted to make a Batman movie, but DC and Warner Brothers said that you have to make a Superman sequel. So he compromised by making a mostly Batman movie with a little bit of Superman and calling it Dawn of Justice because they threw in Wonder Woman to pepper in the Justice League is coming. Even it's the second movie in this extended universe. And it blows my mind that one, they don't get any characterizations right. Zack Snyder wanted to make a movie based around the Dark Knight Returns. I hate that book. I hate that movie. I hate that book. If you want to use it as an allegory against Reaganism, it's fine. But if you want to use it as a comic book movie and as like a reference, like how Batman is the most badass that ever badass, like fuck off. I don't care for that comic, and I don't care for a Batman that uses guns. I don't care for a Batman that uses comics. I don't care for a Batman that uses guns. I don't care for a Batman that has become so jaded that he just kills anyone or he leaves them to be murdered, like he brands them and then they get killed in jail and he doesn't care. That's not my Batman. That's not who Batman is. Zack Snyder clearly just was like, I like Batman. I like The Dark Knight Returns, and I'm going to have him murder 17 people in a car chase. And I think I'm being generous with 17 people. We're going to load him up with guns. He's going to have a sniper rifle, which is going to be used to place a tracker on that he's going to knock off the fucking truck that he's chasing. But he's still going to be able to find the truck, no problem. And there's so many... and there's the side plot of Lois Lane trying to track down this bullet that was found in someone or in a gun in the African village that Superman allegedly killed all these people. Why is Superman using a gun? Did no one notice that there are bullet wounds and not like their necks snapped? There's a difference.
So you're not watching this again because it's bad.
I'm not watching it again because it makes no damn sense. And the first time we see Superman in the movie, he murders someone. He bashes a guy through like 4 brick walls because he threatened Lois.
See, this is rare because most of the time at work, like when people bring up the movie, they talk about how awesome Batman was. And it's like that fight scene where he like...
The warehouse scene is probably the best Batman scene we've ever gotten, except for the fact that he murders 5 people. And then he blows up a gas tank on someone's back and kills that person too.
Which is what I find so funny, because these are the same people who look at me and go like, Michael Keaton wasn't a very good Batman. Why? Because he like murders a bunch of people.
He throws a guy down a bell tower. He
gives a guy a bomb and kicks him off the roof.
he throws a bomb down a guy's pants and kicks him in the sewers in the sequel. Like, yeah, that's the people who want their cake and want to eat it. Who have their cake and want to eat it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just... and then the fact that they're coming up with Justice League where Batman's changed his ways because Superman inspired him with his sacrifice. We have never connected with this Superman. He's been mopey for 33 years of his life, and then he puts on the S and he prevents the destruction of the world, but not the destruction of Metropolis. And Batman's like, we need to kill him. Even if there's a 1% chance that he can turn on us, we have to kill him. Okay. wow, what an inspiration. He let himself die instead of letting Wonder Woman carry the spear. Like, that was an easy out. They could have done so many different things. And I think how it should have ended nails the way that movie could have ended, where they could have introduced Aquaman that way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the fucking not even Easter eggs, the cameos of the other heroes. Lex Luthor has data files on the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman, and he made their logos for them.
Of course.
Like, what? And the Flash has like a top knot thing going on. And thankfully he got that cut because he was also a bowl cut kid in Fantastic Beasts. Aquaman has this really weird moment underwater where he's like a squid, poking away at someone, like, don't film me. Get away from me. And then you have the origin story for Cyborg, which, okay, that's supposed to be what was in Justice League, but Justice League has been gutted, so I'm sure we're getting none of that backstory.
Probably not.
But yeah, I'm not watching it again because it's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. I think it's even longer in the extended cut.
Yeah, I think it's like 3:10.
Yeah, and it just... And there's not even, from what I've seen in like the CinemaSins video, there's not even like substance to it. They have like an extra 12 seconds of a guy walking upstairs.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did an extended version of that where they send that too.
Yeah, and it just... that movie, it frustrates me so much because it's the first time we get Batman and Superman on screen together. Superman isn't joyful. Batman isn't really Batman. He's a murdering psychopath who decides that killing is wrong because our moms share the same name. And I don't care if you nitpick and you, like, I get it. Like, it shocks Bruce to his core because he's become so numb to the world that all of a sudden someone... I can't even because why the hell would Superman say, you're letting him kill Martha? Say, you're letting him kill my mother. Like, no one would just say, you're letting him... I wouldn't say to you, you're letting him kill Marie. Who the fuck's Marie?
Yeah. See, that part bothered me. Just, I understand a lot of people harp on that, but it's just unnatural. He doesn't walk around calling his mom Martha. It's just the whole Martha, Martha Wayne, Martha Kent. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have said, like, save my mom or, like, protect my mother or something. Something made me, like, that makes me just quirk and go, what?
And it falls into the same reason, that moment falls into a similar reason why I really hate Thor the Dark World, is because they say Frigga's name like 30 times before she's killed. They want you to know her name.
Yeah.
And they pull that same trick because they show Jeffrey Dean Morgan when they redo Batman's parents' death scene again, and he whispers, he's Martha.
Yeah.
And then you see Martha's name on the tombstone.
Yeah.
When he has the first nightmare. They say the name a couple more times, and then Batman, they go back and forth, and they have him say Martha again in the flashback again. Like, I get it. Maybe some of the other people in the audience don't, but I get it. You don't need to hit me over the head with her name. I've been rambling on about this movie for too long. What's your name? What's your movie?
In a slight pivot, because I actually do have a Batman listed on mine, but I'll go back to that one. I'm going to pivot slightly and bring up what is considered a masterpiece, Requiem for a Dream. I can only see that I've saw that movie once. I am well aware of the music of the movie, considering that what is it called, Oxfordana or something like that, is used in every trailer ever for the last 20 years. But I can't see it more than once. It's just I watch it. I know it's important. I know it's like interesting. You have Jennifer Connelly in it. You have Jared Leto in it. You have a bunch of other people who I recognize whose names are escaping me. And I know it was like Darren Aronofsky. He wrote and directed it, and
I think that's one of the reasons why it's an only watch once movie, is because Aronofsky, his movies are tough to watch.
Right. But and I understand that there's it gets brought up because of the way they cut the movie. The sequences get faster the further they get into their drug use, and of course there's the ending where everybody's lives just completely falling apart and exploding. And I really actually enjoyed the movie. I sat there and I watched it. Fell in love with it just a little bit, like, wow, this is filmed so well, this is so passionate. You have these people's lives conflicting. you have the degradation that they all go through, how drugs and obsession has completely compelled these people to go into these different directions, utterly bringing them to ruin. Everyone ends up unhappy. You end up unhappy after finishing the movie. And then I'm sit there at the end of it, and part of me went, I kind of want to watch that again to maybe I missed something. And then for the last 7 years, I'm just like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. I don't need to hurt myself that much. And every time I hear that music, the score, it's in so many trailers. It's a very beautiful piece of music. And then part of me immediately goes like, oh, that's right. Those people's lives are ruined now. That person gave themselves up to drugs and prostitution. Jared Leto lost his arm. That woman just was lobotomized via electroshock. This other person, I think, is dead. But you know what? That's going to be a great children's movie. I'm glad you guys use that music.
I've honestly never seen Requiem.
Oh, you don't need to.
I own it. I've been meaning to watch it for years, but I can't find the time, and I can't get myself in the right frame of mind to watch it because I've heard so many things about this movie, like so many great things, and I can't get myself in the right frame of mind because most of these movies that we're talking about, you have to be in the right frame of mind to sit down and watch these movies. I don't know if it's just because I've become more ADD because of like smartphones and stuff, but I can't give a movie like that my full attention. Like I'll have to like throw my phone upstairs on the charger and just sit in front of it. I'm going to have a week to myself, so maybe I'll take the time to find it in my boxes and finally watch it. But I tried to cheat on this list, and this Requiem for a Dream was on like every list.
Really?
Yeah, didn't matter if it was like classics or awful movies or amazing movies or genre movies. It was every single one, whether it was awful, amazing, just movies in general. It was on every list where you only watch this one. You can pretty much only watch this movie once.
There's a little part of me that just doesn't want to feel dead inside.
Speaking of feeling dead inside, my other movie, which is a terrible play on words for my next movie, it's a gorgeous movie. It's an amazing movie. I told my mother-in-law to watch this movie, and she loved it. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Oh, God.
It's a movie based around, I'm looking it up right now just because I am forgetting his name. But it's based around a true story based on a book that was written by a man who had a stroke while going on a morning drive with his son, and he developed locked-in syndrome, just to clarify. It's a French movie, so it's all in French. There's subtitles if you want to watch it. Jean-Dominique Bauby, he was an editor for a fashion magazine in France, in Paris, and he very well-to-do man. He was divorced from his family. The only control he had after suffering the stroke was like over his eyelid. Like one eye he lost from the stroke, so he couldn't really control anything. So they had to literally go through the alphabet with him, and he would have to blink, and they would write out what he had to say letter by letter as he blinked. And it's an amazing movie because they also he still gets to narrate the movie because he's talking about his experiences, but seeing the interactions between his family and his nurses and everything. And then one day he decides he's going to write a book. I haven't read the book, but I've heard that the movie is fairly faithful to the adaptation. But it's an incredible story, and it's a beautiful movie, and the symbolism of the diving bell. And there's cuts of him like in one of those old-timey diver suits with the giant iron helmet and the big bulky spacesuit sort of thing, kind of symbolizing his locked-in syndrome. And it actually kind of helps him become a better father because obviously he has all the time in the world to see his kids. But it's heartbreaking and it's beautiful. It's a tough watch though because again you're the first, I think, 10 to 15 minutes of the movie are entirely from his perspective. All you see is like him blinking, the blurry vision, and he's like, you hear him saying stuff, but you realize that it's a voiceover. It's not actually him speaking. So he's like, what's going on? What are you doing? What happened? Where am I? What's going on? And then he realizes like my mouth's not moving, and it's incredible. And if you are in the mood to watch this movie, I recommend it. But again, you have to be in the right frame of mind.
Right.
You have to be able to stomach this sort of thing. It's not graphic in any way, but it's tough because again, they literally throw you in his perspective for the first portion of the movie, and you realize like, oh my god.
Yeah, see, I can't watch that. I have these little. One of my deepest fears is still, gradual loss or control of my body, which is why I really have never experimented with many substances, because I had one bad experience where I couldn't, for some reason, control my hands. Like I was like, it was just one of those weird bad trips where like it's like you're in your head and you're like, I know this is not going well. This is crap. What the hell's going on? And then you're like, I can't smile. My arm is not doing what I expected to do. I want to pick up that glass, and it's reaching to the far left and knocking over a tumbler. And that tripped me out and pretty much kept me from doing anything after that. And then, of course, I think about like what would happen, when you wake up, sleep paralysis or something like that. I've had that like once or twice, which has just tripped me out completely and just horrified me. Or when you wake up, like you've slept too long on one shoulder, so your entire arm is completely dead, and it takes a little too long to wake up. So when you mentioned that movie, because I've heard about the movie and I've heard about the book, and I just I cannot just.
I don't blame you for it. Like I said, it's a tough watch.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, and again, the first few moments of the movie really deliver that sort of feeling of like, oh my god, what's happening with this man? So yeah, that's my second movie. You can go on with yours.
I'm gonna go with The Wizard of Oz. Now, my experience with The Wizard of Oz, I actually never watched it beginning to end. I've seen clips of it. Of course, every TV show has done a Wizard of Oz thing. There's the homages.
Homages?
No, they're homages.
Yeah. Homages, yeah.
Yeah,
I was just messing with you.
We're not British. We're not going to say homage. Just like we're not going to say herb. It's herb.
I love Herb Fully Loaded.
And I know the story. I've seen the play. I've seen the Wiz.
I can't stand the Wiz.
I watched it when it was on air a few years, when they did the NBC Live thing a few years ago with it. I've seen, was it Dorothy Returns to Oz?
Why would you put yourself through that?
It was bored one day. I understand how important the song is, and of course, my famous connection with that song has to be the version that played on ER when Mark Green was dying. It's that. Was it the Hawaiian guy who sings it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that version, which is just heart-wrenchingly painful.
Israel something. It's a very complicated last name, but I know his first name is Israel.
Yeah, and so I understand that The Wizard of Oz is a very important movie. I went and saw, when we were at the Smithsonian, we went and saw the Ruby Slippers. But I actually sat down and I watched it probably 3-4 years ago when the Blu-ray got released. Had a friend who lent it to me, and I looked it up. The remaster is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. So I sat there, popped it in my PlayStation, watched it beginning to end, all like 93 minutes of it or however long it is. Took it out, put it back in its case, and went, yep, never need to see that again. It just, I don't know if maybe I oversaturated myself. Maybe it's too culturally aware. Maybe there's, it's been just so worshipped, or it's such the consciousness of pop culture is such that know what the story is beginning to end. There's no surprise or something like that.
There's no place like home.
Exactly. I thought it was pretty. I mean, I thought it was, she was great in it. The songs were well done. I love the costume work that it did. Of course, now because we have that beautiful Blu-ray restoration, you can see the matte lines of you can see where they glued the sets together for the backdrops and stuff like that, which completely made me laugh because I'm like, wow, look at that. There's the beautiful Yellow Brick Road, and there's this, and like, I can actually see the paint strips where they painted the set together of the flats. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And then, of course, they're skipping down the Yellow Brick Road. I'm like, they have to stop because they're going to hit that wall. But it wasn't really that. It's just that I was like, nice. Yeah, it's cute. Okay, we're good.
I can understand where you're coming from, especially someone who, I mean, you have younger siblings and stuff, but I don't know. The Wizard of Oz was I think that was one of the first movies my dad ever saw. My dad's significantly older than most people our age's parents.
Yeah.
So I mean that it has a special place in his heart. So he always loved sharing it with us. Plus, it's a big holiday movie every couple of years. Like they just make a big deal by The Wizard of Oz on ABC and on ABC Family and Disney and TBS. And I can understand that it's a one-time view, especially because, like you said, it's very oversaturated. Every TV show does a Wizard of Oz homage.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I can't argue against it. I mean, the main thing people really watch it for are the songs.
Yeah.
Which in today's day and age, you don't have to watch the movie to get those songs.
Of course not.
I'm excited because I'm actually going to see Wicked for the first time for my wife's birthday, where I'm taking her. Hate on me all you want. This might, if we do the C2E2 panel, which would be guilty pleasure movies, if we somehow get that C2E2 panel,
That'd be fantastic.
my guilty pleasure movie, I think I'm leaning towards Steve Martin's Pink Panther.
Oh, I love that movie.
Thank you. Kristen Chenoweth has a small cameo in there as not the manager, but like the receptionist of the soccer team where the player is murdered or the coach is murdered.
Yeah.
And she is gorgeous. She is like prime Glenda in that movie. Like she's just strikingly beautiful.
Yep.
And all of a sudden she's gone like plastic surgery crazy. Her forehead has become enormous. She's gotten sickly skinny. She doesn't look like a person anymore.
See, I first fell in love with her because I watched a little show that was murdered before its time called Pushing Daisies. And she was amazing in that. And then I found out she was Glenda the Good Witch. And then I was just like, oh. And then when a Cherva, she pops up now and then, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. And I actually really debated seeing her, like, she was at the Coronado a few years ago.
Yeah.
I actually really wanted to, but like the tickets were gone immediately, and I was kind of pissed. I was like, but it just went on sale. So I do really want to see Wicked because Liz really wants to see Wicked, but if there's no Kristen Chenoweth, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about the songs being sung by people who are not Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, but hopefully I get immersed enough into the show that it'll just kind of wash away. So moving on, this movie is one that I do not get. People love it. It won awards. I don't get it. It is No Country for Old Men. I don't get it. I watched it. It was a really good movie up until the point where Llewellyn is killed off screen. Everything from that point on makes no sense to me. Javier Bardem kills his wife. Not his character's wife. He kills Llewellyn's wife just because he's a vindictive asshole. And then he gets hit by a car. And then he walks away with a broken arm. And the cops never find him. And Tommy Lee Jones has a big soliloquy at the end of the movie about having a dream that I guess is supposed to tie everything up in the movie, but it makes no fucking sense. I don't get it. I read the book just to try and make sense of it. And the book makes no fucking sense.
See, the reason why I'm laughing is because I have watched that movie 4 times trying to understand what the hell people like about it. And I don't get it either because
It won Best Fucking Picture.
I know. And the thing is, I've read the dissertations about what it actually means. Like, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, all right, what is actually good about the movie? There's some detective work. Okay, cool. Javier Bardem is amazing.
He's super menacing.
Oh,
and he's going to be he's going to be another character that I'm going to love in another movie that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah. And he's creepy. He's crazy. The cattle prod is a great idea for a killing weapon. The flipping the thing, and I've read like things about like, well, he actually isn't a person. He's actually death. I'm pretty sure he's a person, but okay.
Yeah, he broke his arm. Kids saw him.
Yeah.
Like he paid the kid for his shirt, I think.
Something like that. And they're like, well, and then it's like, well, he's actually a metaphor for death. Okay, cool. I get that. And then there was this, and then someone went, the reason why it doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense is actually what it is if you pay very close attention to like some prescription pill bottles like on a counter when Tommy Lee Jones is like in a bathroom or something like that, there's a brief like shot where you can see that he's actually on like dementia meds. So he's telling a story. So he's actually telling a story that he's getting confused with his dream, and it's actually an allegory for Alzheimer's.
But what's the point of the movie?
I don't know. And so I've tried watching it. I'm like, okay, he's an agent of death. Okay, well, I got that the first time. And then like the whole Alzheimer's thing, I'm like, okay. And then I don't get it. I watched it 4 times. I'm not going to watch it anymore.
It's an amazingly well acted movie. The Coen brothers are a common theme with me where I don't get a lot of their stuff. I love No Country, or not No. I don't like No Country for Old Men. I love Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Oh, that's a great movie.
I love that movie. I enjoy The Big Lebowski. I'm sure I've seen other movies of theirs. I still haven't seen the one with the new Han Solo in it.
Oh yeah.
Hail Caesar.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet. I've heard good things about that, but I hear good things about every goddamn Coen Brothers movie, and every other one I see, I'm like, I don't get it.
The Fargo TV show is fantastic, by the way. They have nothing to do with it, but it's fantastic. No, I'm on board with you, like, not getting it. I mean, I tried. I tried, like, reading, like, an article about, like, there's one that I read that was, like, 10 pages long. Internet pages. You know, we're flipping through and, you know, it's talking about this and reference points and this, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I went back and rewatched it, and I went, you lost me. I'm going home now.
Yeah, I just don't get it. That's all I have to say about that one. That's all I have to say about that.
I'm going to go with a movie that I saw in theaters. And I have tried rewatching.
I'm pretty sure you've mentioned this one before in our most disappointing movies.
Oh, maybe. But I saw it in theaters, and I've tried rewatching it 3 or 4 times, and it's been on, I don't know, like... But I'm going to go with The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, you mentioned this one in our most disappointing movies or least favorite movies.
But the reason why I can only watch it once is...
It's another movie that's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Is now that I've gotten past kind of like the disappointment of it, of course it was very disappointing, and you know I felt misled and blah 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 blah. I'm now to the level where I think about what could have been had
Christopher Nolan given a shit.
Yeah, had Heath Ledger not died and the Olsen twins covered it up, allegedly. Seriously, read some of the stuff about that. It's creepy. Anyway, allegedly, so we don't get sued. I mean, I start going back about what he could have done, what he could have changed differently, and I just watched the movie, and I've tried rewatching it a few times. Like, I want to give it a fresh chance. I want to like give this another go, because like I'm one of the few people who will not passionately defend Spider-Man 3. That there are good portions of it. That there's things that you know the studio did to just wreck that movie. But from what I understand, Christopher Nolan had free reign on this movie. He had overcome Heath Ledger's death and how he was going to incorporate that.
He had to alter his plans, yeah.
I don't know if like the studio went, well, he died, so you still got to hit your deadline, and so maybe there's a rush job. But I start rewatching.
I think there was like a 3 or 4 year gap between Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises. I'm pretty sure it was a pretty significant gap. From Batman Begins to The Dark Knight. I think it was like a 3-year gap, and then they had an even longer one from The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises, because I'm pretty sure Batman Begins came out in 2005, The Dark Knight I think came out in 2008, and then I think Dark Knight Rises came out in 11, maybe 12. No, it came out in 12 because it came out the same year that Man of Steel came out.
Yeah, you're right. Batman Begins 2005, Dark Knight 2008.
A 4-year gap.
Ledger was already dead before that even came out, and then 4-year gap. I've tried rewatching it a few times, and I enjoy the beginning of the film, the whole airplane sequence.
The airplane sequence is amazing.
But then a little bit further into the movie, hearing Bane talk starts irritating me too much. Like too many of those people with the videos of like mocking the voice, and one of our coworkers, he does an amazing Bane voice, and the part about it, and he's driven me nuts because now I can only hear him making the Bane voice when Bane speaks. And then the crap with Catwoman being in a completely different film universe than they're in, with the flipping hands, breaking wrists thing, and running off together. And every time I've tried to just even complete it, I just get to a certain point where I just give up. I'm just like, it's not good. And I don't need to see this any further. I'm only going to have seen it once in its entirety, and I'm good with that. I've seen part of the beginning, I've seen part of the middle, I've seen part of the end again, and I'm just, and when I scroll through, even if it's like 10 minutes left before the next movie, whatever movie starts or TV show I'm going to watch, I just like 10 minutes of that 70s show. That'll get my time.
Yeah, I think I've seen bits and pieces of it, but there's so much in that movie that I don't like. The opening sequence with Bane in the plane is super cool, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is absolutely pointless. He just serves a point of solidifying the idea that Batman is a mantle. It's not a responsibility of Bruce Wayne's. I think how it should have ended, again, I'd plug them religiously because they're amazing. They make great points with their videos on this one. Just to kind of end on a laugh, my favorite part of the how it should have ended video for The Dark Knight Rises is they show the scene at the very end where Alfred sees Bruce and Selina, and then all of a sudden Clark Kent shows up out of the side. He's like, "Hey, Alfred. Sorry Bruce made you cry."
That's funny.
I love it. It's great. But yeah, I'm there with you. I think I've literally only seen maybe another 30 minutes of that movie since it came out 5 years ago.
Oh, geez.
And I think most of that is either the fight scene, the very poorly executed fight scene in the sewers below Bruce's armory or whatever in Wayne Tower. Because the moment where Bane lifts Bruce or Batman over his head is so bad.
Yeah, it's pretty.
He's clearly on wires. Like, Hardy's not flexing. Like, you don't see his muscles rippling. No. He's picking up a 220-pound, 40-year-old man who's struggling. And his arms are just like, like it looks like a student film in that moment. It looks bad. And there's a lot that clearly Christopher Nolan was just like, they want me to make 3. Here's the third one. Fuck off. I made Inception. I got to go make Interstellar now. Which Interstellar is another one that I want to watch, but I haven't. It's on Amazon, I think, so I might watch that again while I have my alone time. So my next movie is Marley and Me. I enjoyed this movie. Yeah. I actually really enjoyed it because I'm an animal lover. I love puppies and I love doggos and puppers and kitties. This movie's it's heartbreaking. I don't know if you've seen it or read the book. You have this fun family romp with this bad puppy who becomes a bad dog, but he has a heart of gold because he's a dog. He doesn't know any better. He just knows that he loves his family and he needs to run. And and as he gets older, he becomes a little weaker. And that scene with Owen Wilson will never have a better scene than that scene with that dog, where he's welling up and he's just like, "You were a good dog." Oh my God. I started crying in the theater. Like one of the other topics that I have is movies that make you cry. Marley and Me will be on my list for that one as well. I was bawling like a baby. I was just like, "No, don't do it. Don't." I couldn't stop it. My buddy Alex had told me that he started crying. He's like, "I'm not gonna cry. It's fine." And like they're in the room and he's just pouring his heart out to this dog. And everyone knows that feeling too. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it so heartbreaking is because you've been there and you know that if you're gonna have another dog, you're gonna be there again. Mm-hmm. Or another pet, I should say, not just dog. And so I can only watch that movie once because the only other time I'm planning on crying like that is my daughter's wedding, and because it's our agreement, my wife's funeral. She goes before me, and then like my mom and my dad's funeral probably. Like those are the only 4 other times I'm allowed to cry that badly.
Yeah, no, I refuse to see that movie because I read the book and the dog dies. And so I was like, no, not happening. I don't care.
The book got me too.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, this is not happening because there's a great meme out there. It's like commit mass genocide or war atrocities. But if the dog dies in the movie, I'm out. I'm like, yep, that's me. This means like, wow, that's really sucks. An entire nuclear war happened and everyone's dying in front of me. The dog too? What the hell? Like, what is it?
John Wick?
No, Independence Day.
Oh, yeah, where the dog escapes the explosion.
Yeah, I'm like, that dog better save the bar. The tunnel. Everyone back there, all those cars are full of people. They're all, the dog has got to make it.
Well, they have the same trope in the new Godzilla where Godzilla causes that, like, mini tsunami and the streets are flooding, but the dog outruns the wave. But they pull tricks like that all the time. Like, in Ant-Man, they name Scott Lang's aunt. He names him Anthony. That is entirely just a rope you in game, because the minute you name something, you're attached.
Yep.
And even in a movie. And so when Anthony takes a bullet,
Yep.
you're like, Anthony, no.
I love John Wick, and I like the sequel, and to prepare to go see it, Liz hadn't seen the first one yet, so we're watching it, and she's like, okay, yeah, it's something about she wasn't really paying attention to the trailers or anything, and she doesn't look at the same meme sites I do, so she wasn't aware, and we're watching, and everything's going well, and then she's like, wait, that's a puppy. I'm like, watching, and she's like, and then the whole interaction happens with the thing, and he's bonding with it, and she's like, is the dog gonna die? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do they show it? Yeah. Is the dog on screen? She cry? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, and she picked up a book and started reading. She's like, let me know when you're past that part. So I just want me to fast forward. She went, yes. Fast forward to the dog's buried. And so I was like, I fast forward the movie to the dog's, she's shielding her eyes, the dog's buried, and he's like, so the dog's dead? Yeah. He's gonna kill them all? Mm-hmm. And she was on board the rest of that movie.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I can only watch that movie once. I can only read that book once, because again, I can't cry that bad ever again.
No,
at least not for a fairly decent amount of time.
No, and there's no revenge plot in that movie to make you better. That movie's built to just destroy your soul. I mean,
it's built to pull your heartstrings, and just it makes you want to go out and get a dog, and then never want to take it to the vet.
Nope.
All right, so your next movie.
My grandmother's gonna hate me. So, quite a few years ago, my grandmother was, educating me about her part of the family, her religion, what she was worshiping, and all that stuff. And so I had this weekend where I was probably about 11 or 12, where she had me watch Fiddler on the Roof, immediately followed by Schindler's List.
Oh my God.
You can understand how a mind might be corrupted and changed irrevocably from seeing both of those movies. By the way, we also then watched Jacob the Liar, but I
was just about to mention Jacob the Liar. I love that movie.
That was not as good as the other two.
No, it's still a really good movie.
I love that movie. It's great.
Robin Williams at his finest.
Oh, definitely. Since then, I have seen a few different versions of Fiddler on the Roof. I love the musical. I haven't seen it live, but I've heard the music of it. There's a great Easter egg on the Spider-Man 2 DVD of Alfred Molina, who was preparing for Fiddler on the Roof, while doing Spider-Man. While doing Spider-Man 2, he actually starts singing the "If I Was a Rich Man" song, and the puppeteers start making all the arms move while he's singing it. It's fantastic. It's a great little Easter egg. If you can find it on the DVD. I don't know if they put it on the Blu-ray. But I saw Schindler's List at the same time, and I don't think it hit quite hard enough with me. Well, I mean, it hit me hard, but I eventually tried to watch that movie again, and I think I got like 6 minutes in, and I realized I never need to see this movie ever again in my life. I understand it's a very important movie. I understand it's a very cultural movie. I understand how amazing it was, how Spielberg invested his heart and soul in this movie. You hear the stuff. You hear like some of the stories behind it, like that Spielberg was so devastated filming this movie every day. He used to call Robin Williams, and Robin Williams would cheer him up. He used the cinematography, how it is this important movie, and I occasionally think back of like little things pop into my head, like if I was working on a book or something, I'm like, what is something emotionally devastating that I can add here, or something? How do I build this scene or something like that? And I think of the little girl walking in the little red coat, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's that asshole who just finishes banging some chick and then strolls out into the his little patio there, picks up a rifle and just shoots somebody. I'm like, huh. Yeah, that would get people against this guy. That would work. And then, of course, there's the ending where, he's talking about all the people he could have saved and all this stuff, and he's just saying there, and you find out the real life story of it, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't bring myself to experience that. I mean, I have it with me. I don't need to do it to myself again.
I had to do a report on 3 Spielberg movies when I was in my film history and appreciation class.
Yeah.
I chose Jaws, Schindler's List, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Honestly, I had to watch Schindler's List twice just because I I was just pulled in by Liam Neeson. The performance was amazing, and I had to get every little intricacy of that movie down. It's an amazing movie. I can definitely understand why it's a one-time view, because again, it's heartbreaking, especially if it's a part of your culture and your heritage. Yeah, I can definitely get that.
Oh yeah.
And the people that deny that the Holocaust never happened are just they're not even, they're subhuman in my opinion if they don't believe a mass genocide like that happened, which is a completely different kind of podcast that we're not going to get into. That's just my quick opinion on those sort of people. Yeah, I can totally understand Schindler's List being a one-time viewing, especially if it is part of your heritage and your life like that.
I mean, I know it's happened, and there's also this other thing. So like, we were in the 8th grade, and it was world history class, and the way my school did things was weird. What happened was that I forget what it's called, but you had like one set of classes on one day, and then another set of classes on another, and then so you'd have three of the same class one week, 2 next week, because it flips and rotates, and the classes were like 146 minutes long or something bizarre like that. And what was supposed to be world history class was eventually turned out to be World War II class because, and a little bit of Vietnam, because our teacher was a Vietnam vet and he thought it was important. And he showed us one day. I don't know how he did not get in trouble or why our parents weren't asked permissions were, but he showed us the videos from the Smithsonian's Holocaust section. Or I don't remember. But it's the videos that the U.S. Army Corps took when they got to Germany, and like if they were uncovering the camps and like digging up stuff, like of course people. And so we watched like for the entire class this footage of at the camps of these bodies, the filming of them, the decomposition, all this stuff. And I remember, and it was somewhere around then that my grandmother showed me these movies, and I just remember going, "Yeah, this sucks." I mean, of course it sucks, but it's just like, I understand this movie is important and it brought a lot of focus and refocus and it shed light on the good people who did something and how there is hope and recovery and all the people who were all the people who are alive because of him, as well as the generations. But I just can't do it again.
Yeah, I went on a field trip to Washington D.C. when I was in 8th grade, and we went to the Holocaust Museum, and they had a special section set aside for like Anne Frank, but we actually had to sit down and watch one of those movies. They're brutal, and
they change you. I mean, and
every time I watch Band of Brothers, when they uncover one of the concentration camps, and they start feeding these people, and all of a sudden the doctor's like, "No, you can't feed them. They're malnourished. They need to be like put on a special diet so that because they could eat too much and they could literally die."
Yep.
It's just crazy. One of a movie that I was actually heavily considering for my list was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh, that movie.
That's another movie that I think is kind of a one-watch movie. For those of you that don't know, very quick synopsis of it: a Nazi general's son finds, like, on the outskirts of their property that they share a corner with a concentration camp, and the boy befriends a Jewish boy in the concentration camp. And he thinks he's just wearing striped pajamas. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get that this boy is a Jew who is being held in this camp to die. It's a heartbreaking story because, again, it kind of shows that hatred is learned and it's not inherent in us. It's racism, hatred, all that sort of stuff. And I would say it's a one-time view, except for the fact that I might use that as a learning tool for my kids.
Oh, yeah. No, it would be... I would think so. And, if I ever had kids, I would have them watch a few of those as well, kind of as educational tools, as well as just thinking about it. Like, we're planning a trip to Europe in like in a year or two. Not more like Northern Europe, but eventually we do want to go see the Rhine and Germany, stuff like that. And my grandma's like, "Oh, so you're going to go and you're going to go see some of the camps?" And I'm like, maybe. Because it's like, because I mean, I understand why they're there and seeing them. And there was a fantastic article. Oh, shit, it was probably like 10 years ago. It was a beautifully written article. It was called something along the lines of "There's no news from Auschwitz." And it was about going back there and how they're set up and how you can tour them, and how you can tour them, and the things they have, like pictures of all the people, like the smiling pictures of the people who they would take your photo when you would go there, and all these smiling faces, and then had like underneath them when they had passed away from while in the obviously killed or driven to whatever. And it's just like, and I was reading about that, and I was just like, I don't think I could do that. I honestly don't think I could go there. I mean, I know it's there, I know the history is there, but just with my grandma's bond with it, I just don't think so.
Yeah. So I think we'll move on from there.
Yes, please.
There's no real good transition from that.
No.
So my last movie is Skyfall, another movie that people love, and I think it's 2/3 of a really great James Bond movie. And then it becomes Home Alone, and I don't get it. I don't get the love of like this part of the movie. It's another Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem is an amazing actor, and he gives an amazing performance in this movie. But I don't know. There's the whole he's blowing up Parliament, and then it gives the backstory of James Bond, where he grew up at Skyfall Ranch or something like that. I think people love it. I honestly don't even get the fucking Adele song in it. Like, all it is her saying Skyfall. I don't get it. I don't know. My mind gets blown every time people talk about how amazing Skyfall is. I'm like, it's fine. Personally, I prefer Casino Royale better. When I went to go see it, I had found out that Sam Mendes had directed it. Road to Perdition is one of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. That's an amazing Sam Mendes movie. It's an amazing Tom Hanks movie. It's just an amazing movie in general. So it's like, oh, cool. Sam Mendes did that. Okay, I'm in. And it literally kind of just became the end of Road to Perdition. The last stand in the house at the beach or whatever, and you just fight the wave of the bad guys. And you have the meaningful death of the parent figure, and spoiler alert for both movies, by the way. So it's just like, I've seen this movie before. I've seen a better version of this movie before. And I don't know. I don't get the love of the Adele song, and I don't get the love of Skyfall.
Well, that's like your opinion, man. Because that Adele song is freaking amazing.
Disagree.
It rightfully won an Oscar.
Disagree.
It was fantastic. Now, if you want to argue that the Sam Smith song that won for Spectre should not have won, I can completely understand that.
Sam Smith, the man whose every song sounds exactly the same.
Yes. I was actually just rewatching Skyfall, I think it was earlier this week. And there's so many good things in there. Their relationship with Moneypenny is good. The introduction of Voldemort as the new M, I thought was fantastic.
I'm not discounting any of that. I just think that, one, I don't care for the song, and two, I don't care for the ending before the epilogue where we get the new M.
Oh, okay.
That final fight scene in the house just kills that movie for me.
So you don't.
It doesn't feel like James Bond. It feels like Kevin McAllister grew up and started murdering people, like the joke goes.
Oh, okay. See, I don't disagree that there's an issue with the third act. I really like that they had the old, the original Aston Martin. I like that they went out there. I did like some the history of that you find out that Bond has some issues with his family, which kind of does the callback to I think it was one of the Pierce Brosnan ones where they talk about how that all these secret agents are all orphans. So you find out that the caretaker's been selling off stuff. I really don't know if there was a better way of getting it down to just that interaction with the three of them so he can kill him.
I agree that it's probably the most logical solution, but again, you could have easily just had her walk away. I mean, you don't have to kill her off unless that's in the bylaws of it being M. Is that the only way you get out of this job is being murdered?
It's probably in there somewhere. It never bothered me. I always found it kind of fun. What bothered me more about those scenes is they started trying to be kind of cutesy. When they blew up the car, they had him look really pissed and played some of the early version of the James Bond music. That kind of stuff annoyed me, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I think Casino Royale is a far superior movie, but I think it's a pretty darn good movie. And then the less said about Spectre and Quantum of Solace, the better.
I mean, like I said, there's good stuff in there. The sequence where Javier Bardem escapes from his prison cell, and the moment where the train like falls through the floor, like that's some of the best. I don't know if it's CGI or if it was like a scale
No,
model.
they actually built that.
That was an amazing effect.
Yeah.
That was an amazing thing. There's some great stuff in there, but again, the ending or the final confrontation, I guess you could say, not necessarily the ending, where they go to Skyfall and James confronts his past and M gets murdered by Javier Bardem. It just, spoiler alert, got it. I mean,
right. It's like a
3 or 5-year-old movie, so whatever. It doesn't resonate with me the way like Casino Royale did. I'm spending some of this time here looking up. So Adele won Skyfall. She was up against Chasing Ice, performed by Scarlett Johansson, which I think is an amazing song.
Did you say Scarlett Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson sings the song Chasing Ice, Before My Time. That's an amazing song. Then there was what's her name? The Sunrise Girl. Sunrise.
I have no idea.
You don't know who that is, really? It's she sang the song from Ted. The Seth MacFarlane teddy bear song or movie. Then there was Pie's Lullaby, and then there was the new song from Les Mis. Personally, I don't think Skyfall holds a candle to Before My Time or even the song from Ted performed by God damn it, what's her name? Starts with an M?
I got nothing.
I'm gonna have to look that up now. Damn it. Now the real question becomes: is it editing? Do I edit this out or do I leave the?
Oh, the very uncomfortable.
Nora Jones. It wasn't an M. It was an N. Nora Jones.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wow, Ted came out that year, huh?
Yeah. And so I mean that song was just fun. Like I don't know if it was necessarily an Academy Award winning song, but it was fun. And
so why did Scarlett Johansson sing a song?
It was about a documentary about the melting of the polar ice caps, and I don't know, to me the song doesn't really fit, but it's a beautiful song and it's got an amazing violin solo in there, and I can link you to the song, but
and she sings.
Yeah, she's got that old timey like raspy singing, kind of like Zooey Deschanel, but not quite as fluid.
Yeah.
But she sounds fine. She fits perfectly with the tone of the song. So, personally, again, all I hear when people mention Adele's Skyfall song is her yelling "Skyfall."
When it crumbles.
Oh, there's actual words besides
There's
her
a
saying
lot
Skyfall.
of extra words there, man. It's beautiful.
I don't remember. I just remember being in the theater and hearing her screeching "Skyfall."
First off, she does not screech. She hits beautiful notes.
I like Adele. I really do. But that song, I was just like, they just want to give her the EGOT.
Well, and she would deserve it. She is a wonderful woman.
Yeah. All right. So your last movie.
I've thought back and forth about a lot of stuff. I'm going to go back to rewatchability. That's what I would call this one. I saw Jurassic World once in theaters.
Oh, God.
And I love popcorn crappy movies. Like, I love the Sharknado movies. I can rewatch them because they're just dumb and I can do other stuff and then laugh and enjoy them. But I saw Jurassic World and I was mostly underwhelmed. I've realized it was the movie that got me off the Chris Pratt train of, oh, he's got to be the new Indy. He'd look amazing because I'm like, he's Star-Lord. He's still Star-Lord. And then from what I understand, he's jerky Star-Lord in Passengers. So it got me off the train of that. I don't understand why they needed to shoehorn in 2 more children who ride around in glass balls and break stuff.
And fix cars that have been unused for about 25 years, and all they do is replace the car battery. Oh, yeah. Apparently, the air in the tires never got out.
No, and the oil is perfectly fine. I mean, that's not like that stuff.
The transmission fluid and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, and the wires did not corrode in the middle of the jungle in the Caribbean. No, nothing like that. Spark plug's still fine. But I remember just sitting there going, "It's not CGI's a little dodgy. Okay, it's doing well in theaters." And I do absolutely love the stupid, wonderful, let's go get the old T-Rex who's an old bird, and let's get her out there to fight the Mega Brontosaurus.
The Indominus Rex.
There we go, an Indominus Rex sponsored by Verizon.
Oh, I forgot the most important part.
And that Blue is alive, and the 2 raptors, and they're all fighting. I'm like, yeah!
He even has that hero run around the corner in slow motion.
Exactly.
Which again, you're just like, which one is that?
No, it's blue. You know which one's blue. Blue has the blue stripes. Blue. It's blue.
I honestly didn't even pick up on that.
His name is Blue. And I love that. And then I felt a little cheated that the big shark dinosaur ate it. Oh, I know there's names from. But
Wasn't that the Mosasaurus?
something monster Grammosaurus Rex
I think it was the Mosasaurus.
Tyrannostega. But I was like, okay, it's a forgettable. I walked out going, it's better than 2 and 3 and not nearly as good as 1. But I've tried rewatching it and I realized I can't. I immediately change the channel and go, oh, wait, is it? And I flip back and I'm like, yay, there's Blue. And Blue. And, oh, she's getting the T-Rex. She's opening these.
And outruns the T-Rex in heels.
Yes, she has the flare. Here it comes. There it is. And they go and they watch it and then stuff happens. And for some reason they end up together and it's like, oh, okay, there's about 30, 40 more seconds. Yeah, there she is. She's on the helipad and she's roaring and go to credits.
And they can't even do the... Oh my god. They can't even do the theme right because they didn't get the rights to the music from John Williams. Mm-hmm. Even though, like, again, you would think Universal would have had the foresight to get the rights to the theme. Mm-hmm. That's a one-time use, or one-time use. Yeah, it's a one-time use movie for me as well. Yeah. I don't like it though. I don't get along with Dan Murrell. I've never met Dan Murrell, but yeah. I am in the same boat with him on this movie. It is just a giant pile. And there's so many missed opportunities and so much stupid shit in that movie.
Oh, I completely agree. I don't understand the why they decided to viciously, like in the middle of the movie, viciously kill off the poor assistant who was just trying to do her job. She's got the most graphic, painful death scene for being like lifted by stuff, dropped, slammed through buildings, and then fed to that giant shark dinosaur. I'm like, that's a little random. She did nothing wrong, but of course
that was the point.
Well, no, the bad guy, Kingpin, he gets a lovely off-screen death, but she gets just murdered.
Yeah, well, that was I think Colin Trevorrow, the guy who was kicked off Star Wars Episode 9, came out and said that was his like homage to Chaos Theory.
Poor assistant. She was just trying to do her job.
Hey, now she's Lena Luthor, the most rich person in the DC television universe. That's not Oliver Queen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's Supergirl, one of Supergirl's best friends.
Really?
As Lex Luthor's adopted sister.
Huh. I should watch that.
Yeah, I honestly didn't pick up on it when she first showed up in the show, and then Jurassic World was on like TNT. Yeah. And it was that scene. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Lena Luthor. So I immediately turned it off and turned on Supergirl from our DVR. I was like, oh, yeah, it is.
Oh. Might have to support her career because she really got killed for no reason. But yeah, no, so it's not a movie that I would say not necessarily hate or anything. It's just, it's not worth watching except for that last part.
I don't know how it became the quote-unquote most profitable, not necessarily the most profitable, but it was like the highest grossing movie
of that year, yeah.
Until Star Wars came out.
It was like, what, 1.7 worldwide?
Yeah, and it beat the Avengers opening weekend number.
Of like just nuts.
Yeah, which, again, it doesn't deserve that title. I mean, we've seen a Jurassic Park movie before, and that was basically a reboot of Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they acknowledge it, it's a reboot.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And I have no idea what's coming with Fallen Kingdom. Personally, I don't really care.
You have to care.
No.
Ian Malcolm's back. And we need more Goldblum in our life.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I got enough Goldblum in Thor Ragnarok.
He was the best. He was like so good in that.
Korg, I was going to say Korg was the best part of that movie.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, that movie is so good.
Unlike Jurassic World.
Yeah, I know. Jurassic World. I mean, see, like
I can see Jurassic World being a fun bad movie, but personally, outside of the Godzilla ending of Jurassic Park 2, like if you can't exclude it, so I can't say that really. It's Jurassic World is number 3 out of 4 for me for Jurassic Park movies. It's Jurassic Park by a mile.
Oh yeah,
and then The Lost World, and then Jurassic World, and then Jurassic Park 3 might as well not exist.
Yeah. Well, before coming over, I was installing a video game. Jurassic Park was on TV, and so I was just passively watching that because it was going to, with updates, new video games going to take 6 hours. And I was watching it, I'm like, wow, this is still a really good movie. You know, and the CGI holds up, everything's great. But I did hear something that made me just quirk my head and I had to rewind it. So, okay, you remember when the T-Rex is chasing Malcolm, Muldoon, and Sattler in the car, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and Goldblum's all like, must go faster.
It's the famous must go faster moment.
Must go faster. And Ellie is shouting what sounds like shit, but I'm pretty sure she's saying shift. Now, she could be saying shit because it's closing up on her, but I've always, for some reason, thought she was saying shift because, like, Malcolm's
She's driving a stick.
Well, yeah, no, Muldoon's driving, but, like, the way they have him sit back, he's, like, up against the thing, and he's not being able to shift. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently that's too close for TNT because while she should be shouting that, she's muted, and Goldblum says, fifth gear, you got to switch to fifth gear, and not his voice. It's someone else's voice. But I was like, what? And I rewound it. I'm like, and like, you know, of course, I'm like, what is this? No, she's saying shift, like telling him how to drive. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was like, must go faster, must go faster. Switch to fifth gear. Fifth gear, fifth gear. It's so stupid.
Oh, replacement words.
It's so bad.
That's probably my favorite Frank Caliendo joke is he's talking about replacement words. Like, what the fruit is going on here? So yeah, Jurassic World is definitely, I agree, it's definitely a one-time viewing, but probably not for the same reasons.
It's worth watching because Blue comes back and saves them, and the old T-Rex arrives.
No, it's just stupid. And then Blue rides on the T-Rex so they can form a combo move.
Well, they've got to band together, and I do love that. It's so terrible. He leaps on his back. He rides.
So bad. Like, it's supposed to be this like awesome moment, this epic move. Like,
it's fantastic.
That's so awful and stupid.
It's so good.
And then they have that moment of like silent reflection, like we teamed up, we did good. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna run away now in really bad CGI.
No. What it was, you got to understand, is that they looked at each other, and the T-Rex remembers the last time he faced against a raptor, he had to whoop their ass, and so they're looking at each other, going like, "Are we doing this? Are we doing this? No, we're good." And they both go their separate ways. And Blue kind of takes a quick look at Star-Lord and like, "Hey, I'm going to go over
I'm
here
the alpha now.
Yeah, I'm in charge. I'm going away." And they kind of nod and start go their separate ways. It's a very spiritual moment.
No. It's stupid. It makes no sense. And apparently in your world, the T-Rex is a racist because she was attacked by a couple of raptors.
Well, raptors are bad.
So anyway... Thanks so much for listening, Alex. Thanks for coming by. And this is a fun episode.
Oh, I'm loopy. Yeah, sure, it's fun. We talked about the Holocaust.
I miss Life with Loopy and Kaboom. Kablam, that's what it was. Kablam. Mm-hmm. Life with Loopy, Action Team Now. I miss that show. Tired ramblings. So you can find me. Alex doesn't do social media really, so don't bother looking him up. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh_Scar. You can email us your thoughts. You can email us, your opinions, your one-time view movies as well at tsmackpod@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook and Podbean, Talking Smack, SMAC, superheroes, movies, animation, comics. And as always, you can tweet at us at Talking Smack Pod. So, Alex, thanks again for coming on and doing another fun episode.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thanks everyone for taking the time to listen. Thanks for subscribing. We haven't received any comments yet, so comments are accepted. And again, if you're the first one, maybe you'll win something special. Probably not though.
Yeah, just so you guys know, our exit music this week is the remix by Eminem featuring Beyonce. They have teamed up together.
You mean Queen Nala?
Oh, yeah. They have teamed up together to remix our title theme. And so it's going to be pretty good. We hear that there's an extra verse that was added. And Beyonce's chorus is just breathtaking.
You went really elaborate with that one. Roll that theme music.